Okay, I've tried this a couple times and it hasn't worked out very well, so I'll try again. 2.3, adding and subtracting rational expressions. We're going to remember fractions here because fractions are essentially the same thing. You have a numerator and a denominator, right? So hopefully you remember. I'm not going to give you basic fractions. I'm going to actually throw some variables in there right away. If you have x over 6, 2x over 6, and you are adding them together, hopefully you can see you already have a common denominator, so you're simply adding the numerators. You get 3x over 6. You're almost done. At this point, as I've told you, you need to simplify or reduce all the time. So this is simply 1x over 2, and some of you might like to call it just x over 2. That easy, no big deal, right? We can actually make it a little more complicated by throwing in a binomial on the bottom and seeing if we can come to some sort of simplification here too. Can we combine these together? Absolutely. They have the same denominator. What we do is we subtract the tops. The denominator remains the same. It is common already. And now what we can do is factor the bottom. Always factor if you can. Look to see if there is a common factor, GCF it, or if it's a difference of squares, whatever you need to do. Now that cancels out. You're left with 1 over x plus 1. If you wanted to state your restrictions, you look here and you say, okay, x can't be positive or negative 1. So this would be your entire answer. Often we're just going to be looking for this. So this is the basic idea. We have common denominators, so we haven't had to do anything funky. However, if we do not have a common denominator, okay, you need to find that lowest common denominator, okay? And I'm going to give you an example of a question right now. Let me just throw this out to you. I got a bunch here. I'm going to start with this simple one. And you know what I'll do first here? Let's have a look at what this means. Factor the denominators and find the LCD. We'll be doing that soon. Make each term have the LCD and adjust the numerator accordingly. What I mean by that is that if you are adding fractions that are different, you need to find that common denominator and then adjust the numerator accordingly. 2 times 3 gives me 6. 1 times 3 gives me 3. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 2 times 2 gives me 4. You whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. And now, common denominator of 6. 3 plus 4 is 7, and you are done. So that's what I mean by make each term have the LCD. Your LCD is 6. Adjust the numerator accordingly. Then add or subtract the numerators, whatever is being asked. And then the last thing, simplify state restrictions before canceling. If I have no variables in the bottom, there are no restrictions. I would suggest you write this down. Pause it, write it down, whatever you need to do. I'm going to do some examples. Here we go. 7 over 6x squared. Okay, so what is my lowest common denominator here? You will have coefficients and maybe multiple variables in the denominator. So you need to deal with them separately, individually. Otherwise, it's too much, too overwhelming. 6 and 8 both go into 24. X, you got x times x, and you got x times x times x. Now, you can put 2 x's into 3, but you can't put 3 into 2. So you need at least 3 to cover the whole thing, right? So x cubed, 24x cubed would be your lowest common denominator. So we put that on the bottom. 24x cubed minus 24x cubed. There we go. And we adjust the numerator accordingly. 6 times 4, so it's times 4. X squared times by another x. So that becomes 7 times 4x, which is 28x. 8 times what gives you 24 times 3? X cubed, I already have an x cubed, so that's all I do. 3 times 3, which is 9. And so what you end up having is 28x minus 9 over 24x cubed. Then we look to see, can you simplify? And if the answer is no, then you are done. Finito. That's where we stop. All right? Let's look at another one. Okay, so 1 over x squared minus 1. So what we want to do right now, as it said here, right, factor denominators and find the LCD. So let's factor the denominators. X plus 1, x minus 1, minus 2 over GCF factor, x And now let's look for our LCD. Well, it's got to include everything from both denominators, okay? So x plus 1. Now I don't need to include it twice because there's only one in each. So if I put 1x plus 1, I'm good. I can put an x minus 1 because there's one here but there's none here, so I got to have one, right? Because I've got one at least. And now, is there anything else that exists in the bottom of these things that's not here yet? And hopefully you can notice that it's the x. So I need an x there as well. Okay? So now my common denominator, okay, I'm going to put the x first. So it's going to be x, x plus 1, x minus 1. X, x plus 1, x minus 1. Now you can see the denominator here. That's what we got right there. The only addition is the x, so 1x. 2 is already there. That's there, that's there. I now have to add an x minus 1, so I multiply by x minus 1. Combine them. X, x plus 1, x minus 1, 1x. Then we can simplify this up here before we do anything. Call it 2x minus 2. And then minus 2x plus 2, because minus and minus. So, oh, let me slide this up here. So 1x minus 2x minus and minus is a plus 2. And the last thing we want to do, if that's still my denominator, okay, combine this. X minus 2x is minus x plus 2. And we are done diddly done. So that's a pretty long one. And we can't simplify it, right? So you look at this, and if you can't simplify it, you just leave it. There's nothing I can take out. Oh, well, no big deal. Okay? The idea was to group it together, right? The idea was to combine these two together. Now, let's have a look at this one down here. Some of you have been having some issues with GCF factoring, so what I'd like to do is maybe see if we can change this. So look, GCF is 3 here, and then it's going to be x plus 2. All right, so now you're looking at your LCD. What's in the bottom? Well, I've got a 3. Okay, I need to include a 3. I have an x plus 2. Okay, I got to include an x plus 2. What do I have over here? I got the x plus 2. Oh, it's already included. Boom, there it is. So my common denominator, 3 times x plus 2 plus 3 times x plus 2. I had a 3x here before. Well, that's my denominator. And that's my lowest. Okay, so I don't have to change that. Perfect. Now, plus x plus 2. Oh, I got a 3 here, so I have to multiply that by 3. Boom, done. So now you have a common denominator of 3 bracket x plus 2. And then you have on the top 3x plus 3. And we are done diddly done. You can factor it a little bit more if you want. You can say 3 bracket x plus 1 over 3 bracket x plus 2. Oh, look at that. We actually simplified it further. Boom. Those cancel out. So your final answer is x plus 1 over x plus 2. Perfect. I like that. Now, another one that's a little bit different, okay? We've got to remember this thing. X minus 2 kind of looks like 2 minus x, but not really. So how can we rearrange this? Well, minus x plus 2. Remember the sign in front stays with that number, right? If you want to turn this into an x minus 2, factor out a negative, it becomes x minus 2. So we can rewrite this as 7 over x minus 2 plus 4 over minus x minus 2. And all that really happens here, take a look and see what you think might happen here. Right, you got the same denominator, so my LCD is basically x minus 2. But what do we do with the negative? Well, the negative here makes this whole thing negative, and a plus and a minus end up being a minus. So all we really do is 7 over x minus 2, change the plus to a minus, 4 over x minus 2. You have the same denominator already. 7 minus 4 is 3. Boom, done. Okay? So some of them turn out pretty easy, some of them don't. Boom, another sheet of paper down. I got one last question here, and I'd like you guys to sit there or take a second and factor it on your own right now. See how far you can get by factoring this thing. Okay? pause it, do it. Here I go. The top 3 bracket x plus 3. The bottom here, well, boom, 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 boom. That's x plus 2, x plus 5, plus 14 on the top, can't factor that. X, it's going to be plus 5 and minus 2. So I'm going to look at an LCD here. X plus 2, yep, got to put an x plus 2 in. X plus 5, yep, got to put an x plus 5 in. X plus 5 already there. X minus 2 not there, got to put it in there. Boom, done. So my common denominator now, holy, this is going to be a long one. Okay, x plus 2, x plus 5, x minus 2, plus x plus 2, x plus 5, x minus 2. Now, I already had, well, let's leave it as 3x plus 9, actually. Let's go 3x plus 9. Now, I have the first 2, but I've had to multiply by x minus 2. Here I have the last 2. I've had to multiply the 14 by the x plus 2. Right, so this bottom here, x minus 2, this x plus 2, so that means the top here, x minus 2, and top here, x plus 2. And now it's just a matter of doing the math, folks. Okay, so let's, first of all, foil the tops here maybe. Let's do that. Okay, so that's going to be 3x squared, right? Minus 6x plus 9x minus 18 plus 14x plus 28 all over x plus 2, x plus 5, x minus 2, and again, all over x plus 2, x plus 5, x minus 2, and we combine 3x squared, done, minus 6x plus 9x is 3x, plus 14x is 17x, okay, minus 18 plus 28 is 38. And now, unfortunately, we're not done. This is a little trickier to factor. You need to be able to factor this 3x squared plus 17x plus 38. Now I'll show you quickly. You guys give it a shot. I'll give you a hint. It's 3x and x. It has to be. So give it a shot before I do it. 38. Well, that's 19 times 2. That's pretty much all I've got is 19 and 2. No, but that's not going to work. That's not what we've got to do. So anyways, numbers that multiply to give me 38. Yeah, well, this 19 times 2. What else we got here? 10. Where did I get 38 from? That's my apologies, guys. No wonder it's not working. Minus 18 plus 28 is actually 10. Boo! So that's 10 times 1 or 5 times 2. Those are my only choices. Sorry about that. I was wondering what happened. So there, minus 18 plus 28 is plus 10, right? Bang! So 5 and 2. You guys should try it. 5 and 2. Well, look at that. That actually works as long as they're both plus plus. Then cancel that out. You end up with simply 3x plus 2 all over x plus 2, x minus 2, and you're basically done. If you wanted to state your restrictions, last thing, you go and look here. Can't be negative 2, can't be negative 5, can't be plus 2. And I'm out.